welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, May 1st, 2018. As always, we are coming live from the W4CY studios here in West Palm Beach, and I hope everyone has had an amazing week so far. Well, you know, football for me this weekend was no bueno. We lost. We got our butts kicked pretty bad, and I kind of re-injured my hamstring injury, and I'm not going to say that loud, only because, you know, there's a lot of people that just didn't know I played football. And Chad's already given me the look over here like, you went out and played football with an injury? Yes, I did. And I was stupid, and I'm going to slap my own hand for that. But it was playoffs. How could I let my team down? Anyways, I only played for the first half, and let me tell you something, it was horrible. I had no speed, and finally when I caught a really nice deep pass, I ended up tweaking it, and I was out for the rest of the game. And of course, you know, with three of our starters out, the other team just picked us apart, and we lost 34-7. Yeah, we got kicked, but it was fun. You know, I love football. I wish it was around more. It's only around half the season, well, the first part of this year, and we're gonna have to wait till next year for the tournament to start all over again, and then the Extreme League. But you know, yeah, this week has been slow for me. I've just been kind of recovering. You know, it's, you know, one thing that is still a challenge for me to get used to sometimes is slowing down. With having the illness that I've had and trying to deal with that, and, you know, healing through alternative medicine and everything, it's really been a challenge. And then with these injuries that keep popping up, you know, it's been a challenge. But I am, you know, I'm trying my best. I'm mastering it to do that, and we're gonna see how it goes. If you're looking, you know, at our Periscope, because we're on Periscope as always, and YouTube as well, then you'll notice I have my game jersey on, my Penguins game jersey on, because we're playing tonight. I am excited. It's hockey playoffs as always. And, you know, yeah, it's a sports-filled day kind of. Even though this isn't a sports show, it is kind of a sports-filled introduction today. But, Chad, my man, how are you doing today?
A lot better than you. What was that score again? 34-7?
Yeah.
Talk about insult to injury that you already have.
Yes. It was hard to watch.
That's terrible. Do we have video of that?
No,
I'd like to watch it too.
I'm glad we don't. We do have pictures. They do have a Facebook and a website that they post all their pictures on. And yeah.
What's the team name? You don't even have a team name.
Ours was Tap That Pass.
The Bad News Tap That Passers.
Hey, we're not bad news. We only had one bad game, and unfortunately in playoffs, you're out.
Is that what the other team was doing, tapping the pass that
yes.
you guys were intending for each other the whole game?
Yes, that's what it seemed like.
What was it, a bad quarterback? What is it, bad defense?
No, well,
obviously bad defense.
Well, yes, our three starters, me and two other girls were out, and it was just, you know, we didn't have it. They picked us apart at the areas where our starters were out, and they just walked all over us.
Well, I like your team spirit, at least,
yes.
You know, getting out there. But you could have compromised the game with your injury.
Yes, I know. That's why I slapped my own hands. Yeah, I'm slapping it some more.
Better luck next year. I guess next season. How many seasons do we have in a year?
We have the breast cancer tournament in the beginning of the year, and then we have the Extreme League for a couple months, and then it's done until next year.
Oh, so there's only like 2 shots per year. This football thing, huh?
Yes. I wish they had a league all year round, but in the summertime it gets way too hot to be playing flag football and running for 4 quarters. So.
Well, my heart goes out to you.
Yes.
I like your team spirit, though. Your get up and go get 'em, no matter that you're hurt. Better luck next time. On with the show.
Well, what about you? You didn't even say anything about you. Well,
about me? What do you want to know about me?
How's the band? What's going on?
The band.
Yes.
We got the band back together. They're sounding great. No, the music thing, we're doing about 2 gigs a weekend now, so it's a nice little balance. I'm more at peace during the day, you know.
Good.
I think the 3 gigs per week were getting to me, you know, after putting in 45-something hours here at the studio. And then you got the gigs, which probably take about, 7 to 8 hours your day, depending on if it's an hour away or something like that. So right now, I'm at peace. It's well balanced. The engine's running nice.
All right. Well, I'm glad
I have
to
no
hear.
complaints.
Good. You look good.
I
You
do?
Yes, you do. You really do.
Right on. I'm glowing too, huh?
Yes, you are.
Bonus.
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, thanks for asking. I'm glad you cared. Now,
Yes.
on with the show.
On with the show, as always. All right, everybody. I am not taking any calls tonight because we have two very special guests, but we will be on. If you want to web chat us on the w4cy.com website, I will be on there, and I'll take your questions on there, and then I'll ask them on the air. But we will not be doing any call-ins today. And as always, we are recording for the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Transcendental Transformation. And we are on Periscope. We're doing it live. If you download the Periscope app, we are Transcendental 13. Well, speaking of health, obviously this is a spiritual and alternative medicine show. And, one of the things that I had the fortunate situation to run into somebody through, working and networking and everything like that. And these two people that I have on, I have a lot of respect for. They are an amazing group of people that, that really bring alternative medicine and the healing arts into full circle. And, we talk a lot about spirituality and healing the mind and the body and everything and personal development. But, it really is one of those things where it's a whole unit when we have to understand that. And this country is finally starting to get to the point where we are learning to develop the broader spectrum of medicine. And so our first guest today has a degree in chiropractic, nutrition, psychology, and acupuncture, and has postdoctoral training in neuro-emotional techniques and trained in the DiMartini method. And he is also, his main focus in his area is the mind-body healing and personal development area. Please help me welcome my guest, Dr. Larry Goodman, to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. All right, so our second guest today is an acupuncture physician who founded Coral Gables Acupuncture in 1996. He studied acupuncture in Chengdu, China, and is nationally board certified in acupuncture from National Certifications Commissions of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine in 1996. He received his diplomate in Chinese herbal medicine from the National Board Certification of Chinese Herbology in 1997. Please help me welcome my second guest, Dr. Steve Chasins.
And thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, perfect. Thank you guys for being on my show today. So I want to get into it right away because, both you guys have this approach of the whole body, the whole mind and everything. And I think that's where we're going to start with with today is because, when we are trained in this country, we're trained that a lot of times that, we have a sickness in our body and stuff and to take a pill and, the medicine's going to take it. But it really is much more than that. So my first question with Dr. Goodman is, how did you get involved? What was the path that led you to this?
Well, I started out with training in psychology. Then I got additional training, became a chiropractor, and then additional training in nutrition, and finally acupuncture. And up until now, what I started to notice was that a lot of the people who got sick, the reason they got sick really had to do with stress.
Yes.
So I just kept studying and studying that.
Well, stress is a big issue in our country. I mean, we are a stressed out society, and stress is the main factor that goes into most disease.
That would be true.
So Dr. Goodman, so you started out, I mean, that's quite a spectrum of knowledge right there. You started out in psychology, then you went to chiropractic, I believe, and kind of acupuncture, nutrition. I mean, that's really well balanced.
Well, it sort of was driven that way based on watching patients and experiencing frustrations at not being able to help more people or help them get better faster or help them get better more completely. And so I just kept going. And actually, I still keep going.
Well, I mean, I think that's a lot of our frustration is, there's so much. Today we have the information age, as they say, and there's so much knowledge. There's so many doctors popping up in alternative medicine and Oriental medicine and Western, and you can go online now. And the dangerous thing is a lot of people do go online and they start searching, all their symptoms, and they start self-diagnosing, and that can be that can create more stress if we're already stressed out because we really don't know what we're doing then.
A little bit of knowledge can be a dangerous thing. That's very true.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Chasins, how about you? How did you get into acupuncture?
I had experienced persistent chronic low back pain when I was in my mid to late 20s and became increasingly dissatisfied with the options that were available to me after having tried each and every one of them. Eventually, through an unwillingness to accept acupuncture, but also an unwillingness to suffer, I eventually made a decision to try something different. I had one treatment which led to immediate but short-lasting results and left the office very unconvinced that this was an actual fact and not a placebo. I eventually continued to get more and more treatments and recognized that there was some value in this. Through continual treatment, I also recognized that other parts of my life were getting better and that my back was just a holistic metaphor for the rest of my life. And I met a student who invited me to come to a class. There I met a professor who took me on as a student himself, and 4 years later, in '96, I was in China finishing a degree, and I've been in practice ever since.
Oh, wow, that's quite a story. A lot of people, I went to school for Oriental medicine and acupuncture as well, and that's kind of how I was led to it as well, is I had some pains due to some sports and everything, and the teacher that I ran into was actually one of those that said, hey, well, why don't you come to my, my clinic, and I'll give you a free treatment like they do to all the students, and, I kind of balanced the same thing because it worked, and at the same time, I was like, well, was this a placebo? Did it really work, or is this a real deal?
Exactly right. I think an experiential process is so necessary to becoming a great practitioner because you can come from your heart as well as your head.
Absolutely. I think that it's important for us as people, to understand, and I think it's starting to change the mindset is that we're just not physical, and it has, our illnesses have so much to do with so many ideas, whether it be mental, emotional, or physical, and they kind of all play in with each other. And I think that a lot of times what we do is we sit there and we just go to the doctor and we think, okay, like I said earlier, we're going to take this pill and it's all going to make everything better. But if we keep contributing like stress and the external factors that we're doing, our illnesses or our diseases don't seem to make progress.
Well, the other interesting thing really is that we're sitting here having this conversation about the placebo effect as if it's some less than real effect. And yet, as we keep learning more and more about the brain and more about the mind, what we're really coming to see is that the placebo effect may well be the most powerful healing effect that there is, because so much of the healing really starts with the brain as a secretory organ, changing the whole chemistry of the whole body just by a thought.
Oh, absolutely. There are people. I was a volunteer for hospice for many years, and there was a person in there that actually, they were diagnosed with cancer, and the person said, "No, I'm not. I'm not," and ended up being it because they believed that they didn't have it. No matter what they said, they're like, no, it's already done, it's already healed. And they were so strong-willed about that they actually had a turnaround with that. It was in the papers and all sorts of stuff.
I believe that. The science is catching up with observations, too. The whole field of psychoneuroimmunology really speaks to the whole idea that what you think affects how your nervous system operates, which then affects how your immune system works.
So then, in order for us to start healing, then we really have to start looking at our perceptions, because even though, we may have, like they always say, lower back, or we always carry stress in our upper shoulders and due to everything. And so our perception is really dictating how we're going to react to something, and if we're going to develop some type of stress hormone.
For sure. And, listening to you describe the injury that you had, one of the things about the whole field of prevention is, I think it at least would have been interesting to have you have a functional neurological examination before you played and make sure that everything was as balanced and intact as it could have been before you played.
Absolutely. That was one of the things that I will say that I went into the football game doing, was my mind was already doubting itself. It was like, well, you should take it easy because you don't know if it's truly healed. And I had to try to step out of that. But at the same time, I wanted to be cautious because I didn't want to blow the hamstring completely out. So I kind of had to, have this tricky balance of common sense and education, along with not trying to trip myself and go down the fear factor.
I can understand that.
So, Dr. Chasen, you were talking about, lower back pain and stuff, and a lot of people, that's one of the things that acupuncture does treat with lower back pain. What else is acupuncture good for?
Oh, that's a great question. And I get that question asked a lot. I think the axiom is belly, brain, and pain. So when people come to me and they ask me what else is this good for, it's easy to remember that any mild to moderate digestive issues, neurologic issues, even mental, emotional issues, as well as pain issues. And the pain issues go from menstrual cramps to headaches to musculoskeletal. And lately, in the last 20 years, we've seen a tremendous boom in fertility support, increasing ovarian reserve, uterine lining, and preventing miscarriages.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You wouldn't think that something as simple as acupuncture, is that more the acupuncture itself, or is that herbology, or is that the combination of the two?
It can be one or the other, but the most effective and potent utilization is the combination of acupuncture and herbal medicine, and they complement each other, and that's the way the system was designed some 3,500 to 4,000 years ago.
So my question to you next is, because I'm sure you hear this one all the time, is how does acupuncture work?
Well, we really don't understand all the factors that mediate the body's response, but the best explanation is that there are obstructive forces within the body that are described in herbal medicine as energetic, such as too much heat, too much cold, too much moisture, too much dryness, movement, and lack of movement or stagnation. And acupuncture has the ability to regulate those forces and actually remove them so that the body can generate its own ability to heal.
So you're saying that when we have like disease in the body, whether it be some type of pain or anything that you were saying earlier, that it's basically an energetic stagnation or maybe a blood stagnation of some sort.
It's an energetic blockage, and stagnation is one of 6 basic components. It's beyond the scope of our discussion today to get into them, but they interplay with each other. It becomes very complicated very quick. But basically, it's a blockage in any excess or deficient form of hot or cold, damp or dry movement or stagnation.
Wow, that's we are a stagnation. We are people of stagnation. We like to sit around, and that's becoming increasing, especially with video games. I know that there was a big issue with children wanting to play. When we grew up, we went outside, we played all the time. We did tag and all sorts of things. Then technology came in, and we just sat around, and we started to get more obese. We started to get lazier. We started not to value education and different stuff. And this is the same mindset that you're saying as well, right?
Yes, and back to the previous point, the stress can really cause a tremendous amount of stagnation, either emotional or physical, very quickly. And when it's persistent, it's very difficult to treat any other way except energetically.
So when someone then, because both of you guys kind of work on similar things, just in different approaches. And so if we're talking about stress, because that's what we're talking about right now, but like stress comes in and, one of the things that they say is we go in, we see the doctors, we get our treatment and stuff, we feel great, but then the real world happens and we go back into the same old patterns again. So how do we learn to start dealing with this in the sense of not letting the stress get to us?
Well, one of the first things that is really useful is to stop thinking about the stress as something that's avoidable and really to recognize it as part of life and something to flow with as opposed to resist it. Because we all know that euphemism that what you resist persists.
Yes.
And so when you deal with a situation, even the idea that you could avoid or eliminate the situation really makes you a less resourceful person in the situation than if you recognize that the situation, whatever it may be, was part of your life and to cultivate the skills necessary to deal with it.
But, I really like that because, it's a part of life. I think that's one of our biggest ideas is we try to fight everything. We try to exclude, things from happening to us. Well, we're here, challenges are going to happen to us. I don't believe in good or bad, but people say, oh, well, bad things are going to happen to us, or bad things happen to good people, whatever. And we really try to make our mind create this world that we're not going to experience anything, but we have to experience those things in order for us to grow in that aspect.
If you set about to try to eliminate every quote-unquote stress, every challenge, everything, what you wind up with is a very shallow life in which you're exerting so much energy attempting to avoid being challenged that the window of your life gets smaller and smaller. What I really suggest to people and work with people even in a coaching format is to recognize that certain challenges in life not only are inevitable, but that they're a gift.
Absolutely.
They give you the opportunity to learn. They give you the opportunity to discover your resourcefulness. They teach you things that you might learn no other way.
Now, Dr. Chasins, does that apply as well to acupuncture and oriental medicine? Because I know it's a whole body healing as well. And do sometimes people have like these aha moments or these realizations during an acupuncture treatment?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the philosophies of Carl Gable's acupuncture has been derived from my own personal experience, where I try and empower my patients by educating them about choices that will allow them to access their best potential. With every acupuncture treatment comes an aha moment for the body, whether the patient is consciously aware of it or not, because when they come in on the subsequent treatment, they're energetically a different person and they're treated as such. It's not a one-size-fits-all medicine. They evolve through a course of treatment, which can be anywhere from 12 to 24 visits. By that time, they have been educated through conversations with the staff as well as the physicians about what herbal medicine can do, when to use it, when not to use it, what physical activities are best, like Tai Chi and Qigong, and what nutritional support they can get from food therapy and over-the-counter supplements.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. All right, guys, we will be right back after these messages from the life of Raina.
A message from the life of Raina. We live in a world faced with many tough challenges. Our lives become chaotic and filled with disaster ever so quickly, most of the time before we even realize. Our issues beat down our mental mindset, and an imbalance of emotions become prevalent. The life of Raina is dedicated to helping people on the deepest spiritual level. Miss Raina the creator of Transcendental Development and Growth, works on your core issues and finds the solutions which allow you to break free from the emotional bondages of life, helping you achieve the life you've always wanted to live. Isn't it time that you lived life for you? Call the Life of Raina, 561-846-2190, and schedule your appointment today. That's 561-846-2190. Or email thelifeofraina@icloud.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. You're listening to Transcendental Transformations, and we have Dr. Larry Goodman and Dr. Stephen Chasins on. And right before break, we were talking, or Dr. Chasins was talking about the aha moments. And, you said something that sparked my interest was that, within 12 to 24 visits, that sounds like, is that normal for getting that type of treatment? Or because it sounds like a lot, most people think that, I go see the doctor maybe once or twice and I'm going to be fixed.
Well, that's exactly right. And once or twice is probably very effective to treat the symptoms in Western medicine. But this is actually holistic medicine, where the patient's often option is to treat the causative factor or the underlying mechanism that got them into this situation in the first place. And so it's not hard for a patient to understand, if explained correctly, that the value of repetitive treatment over a short period of time allows them to gain some stability and reinforces the body's ability to resist stress for a long term.
So the slower approach is actually like you're getting to the deeper issue, or the root of the challenge, rather than just masking the symptoms and hoping that the body will take care of it over time. So, because a lot of times, like if I were to go to an acupuncturist and they would say, that would be my first question, why so many things? But understanding that type of knowledge that, that the body has to take time to recover and to adjust to the treatments and everything and regain its strength. Because obviously if an organ or anything like that is out of whack, sort of say, it's going to take time. If it didn't happen overnight, so it's not going to happen overnight to heal.
That's such a valid point. The patients are generally more convinced after the first 4 to 6 visits of the value of long-term care. But, of course, we leave the option open for the patient to choose how they want to be treated. They always can treat their symptoms, and they're free to come and go. America's a wonderful country, as you know, and we simply provide a service of high quality and allow them to decide the best option. That we make a shared decision with the patients as to how they want to handle their health.
We're living in a world. Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
We're living in a world where we're seeing more and more the consequences of short-term decisions, and how you make a short-term decision that ultimately has very different long-term consequences, because human beings are habit-driven machines, whether it's in terms of their posture or energetically or their thought processes. And just a Band-Aid approach very often, while satisfying in the moment, doesn't necessarily resolve the underlying issue that created the problem in the first place.
Well, wouldn't you say then that would be the patterns or the conditionings of our minds? Because we are, our brain works in patterns, and so if we have developed a pattern over time, then recorrecting it is going to be something that's posed a challenge, which is why most people really don't want to. I always use working out, because obviously I do the gym all the time, but, a lot of people will say, I want to lose weight, I want to do this thing. They'll work out for a week or whatever and expect to have this body, and then they quit if they don't see within a result right away.
For sure.
So I was looking, and one of the things that Dr. Chasins was talking about is the value of long-term. And, I've had my own personal experiences with that, because I developed goose syndrome, and, it came throughout during Thanksgiving. And it's been a very challenging syndrome for me to overcome, because I've always been the type that has always been healthy. I've always been strong. If I caught a cold or a flu or something, something, it would take me 6 hours and I'd be back at it. And, and this is something that I've had to reevaluate my whole life, the way I do things, the way I take care of myself, the way I look at everything, because, it is one of those things where even my colleague of mine said, well, it's kind of like straining oil from flour, and it's going to take that long. And it gave me a deeper appreciation for the field that I'm in, that kind of like impacted the methods behind it.
Absolutely. I had done my graduate work with the teacher of the Goose Syndrome School. His name was Heiner Fruhoff. He was out of Bastyr in China, and I studied with him in China. So I've seen a lot of it in my clinic, and it's more often a manifestation of stagnation and dietary influence.
Yes, yes. Yeah, because, honestly, like I went to the doctors and they told, like the Western medicine, because I got to a point where I was so ill I couldn't even move. And I really thought walking from my couch to the bathroom, I was going to have a heart attack. And, and they told me, oh, I was just having a panic attack. And I said, no, something's wrong. Something seriously is a little bit deeper than this. And, and I was taught in Oriental Medicine School a little bit about Goose Syndrome, but not in the depth of it. But this symptom, and right now I'm taking Pearl and Mentha, and or the modified Pearl and Mentha, and it's given, like I said, it's taken a while, but it really helped me understand the the process in which the body heals.
That's absolutely right, and it's once you have a diagnosis like that, or once anyone has a diagnosis like that, to have a foundation. It's a very valuable experience, because they have a foundation from which they can begin their empowerment and self-knowledge to treat proactively and improve the quality of their life.
Absolutely. Dr. Goodman, you were talking about, brain patterns and everything, but you also do the neuro-emotional technique, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what is that? Because I'm not familiar with that.
Neuro-emotional technique is a whole person healing system that uses elements of acupuncture, it uses elements of homeopathy, it uses elements of nutrition, and deals with the emotional component. So it's really what attracted me to it in the first place was it gave me a way to interact with the patient to deal with the emotional side of things in a very effective and very physical way, without having to have somebody retell all the stories of every trauma they ever experienced in their lives.
So is this, so to my understanding, would this be like, let's focus on one challenge and then it would pull the string of other challenges that are tied to it?
It could do that, or very often, especially when I started to work with it, I would see patients who had been treated traditionally before and had gotten some level of improvement and then had reached a plateau. And then we would start to do the neuro-emotional technique, and especially when dealing with the emotional component, I think there's nothing quite so fascinating as to watch the look on a patient's face when you deal with the emotional component of, say, a shoulder problem or a back pain, where the treatment literally doesn't even involve touching the affected part.
Yes.
So that you would go through the protocol and deal with the underlying emotion and do the treatment, and the patient would get up off the table and the painful condition of the affected part would be better.
Well, I think, and one of the best ideas of that is how we deem like stress or whatever. A lot of us who have stress and don't know how to deal with things that have happened to us, a lot of us develop, digestive issues. And a lot of times people right away, they want to take antacids and so many different things to, maybe probiotics and stuff. And they can get to a point, but it doesn't go away. And then when you change that mental aspect, because that's really what's causing it, the non-acceptance of what has happened in your life, and changing that aspect, people have said, well, where did it just naturally healed up?
For sure. The emotional component to the stomach, the first one on the neuro-emotional technique chart for the stomach is disgust. And so we have very often situations that are happening in people's lives that, as you said, through lack of acceptance, we have the notion that if we just resist it, it'll somehow make it go away. And what it winds up doing really is depleting the body and depleting the mind.
But and that's what I think that we have to take a look at. A lot of times I think we don't want to look at ourselves. I think that's why we go to our phones. That's why we go to our movies and whatever. We get busy on the computer or whatever we're doing. We keep ourselves busy, and we don't really realize that that's not taking care of the issue. It's not one of those things where, here, I'll hide that bill underneath the tree and that bill will go away and I'll never have to deal with it again.
For sure that. And the other thing I think that's happening is, especially in the land of social media, that people are substituting their interaction, whether it's Facebook or wherever, for really having meaningful interactions and communication with people. And so you may have the sense, because you've had this Facebook friend, that you're really out there and interacting with people, when in fact you could be very lonely and not having, dealt with your own challenges about dealing with and communicating with people.
Absolutely. And I think that's why chat rooms and all these dating apps are so popular, is because we're searching for it, but we're not doing the things that we need to feel whole inside. So, Dr. Chasins, I have a question. I hear that diabetes or acupuncture and herbology can help with diabetes. Is that true?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no question that a consistent course of acupuncture as well as routine herbal medicine can help with what we call sugar handling issues. I don't believe that for type 1 diabetes, acupuncture can be as effective as it can for type 2. And we know clinically that diet modification, which is a form of herbal medicine, can convert a patient from a high A1C back to a clinically normal non-diabetic profile.
Do the herbs are they, because there's a lot of pills that from Western standpoint that that people who are diabetic, and then they have the insulin shots and everything. Is the herbal formulas, is it the same thing as, like, it goes a little bit slower, but it's more effective because it's getting to the root as well?
Well, let me first say that absolutely there is no comparison between the ingredients in nutrition and prescription medicine versus Chinese herbal medicine. The ingredients in Chinese herbal medicine are based on the underlying causative factor for sugar handling or pre-diabetic issues that regulate heat, moisture, movement, and dryness. It all goes back to the 6 energetic components. Usually there's an organ involved, for instance, polyphagia, which is thirst. Usually it is located, the origin is located in the stomach, and there is too much what the Chinese would call fire. So we use herbs that clear heat and engender fluids. So that's a big difference between some of the prescription and nutritional supplements that you can buy.
The one thing that I see with a lot of people that are diabetic, and I have several family members. My dad actually ended up passing away from kidney failure due to diabetes, and and that was the thing. They would take their insulin shots and their pills and stuff, and then go right back eating the junk that caused it there. And I sat there and I told them, I was like, you can't be taking, even with Chinese medicine, you can't be taking, these formulas or these injections or whatever, and then still continue the same patterns, because it's not like a wash. It's not like, oh, I'm going to take this so I can eat this.
Well, let's be clear about the limits of Chinese medicine, both acupuncture and herbal medicine. If there is a psychosocial component to behavior, I'm not so sure that that's within the field of Chinese medicine to correct. I will tell you, though, that I have on many occasions assisted patients in lowering their required dose of prescription medication because the body has responded to the acupuncture and herbal medicine, and it works better.
I think a lot of where we're getting to anyway is the team approach. Whether it's the acupuncturist, the chiropractor, the nutritionist, and the endocrinologist, and or the psychologist, or the lifestyle coach, the whole blend really winds up creating a situation where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Well, I think anybody who is smart would understand that. I mean, everything has something to offer. I mean, obviously, if I had trauma and a broken arm, I wouldn't go patch some herbs on it and say, okay, good. I would go to the ER or whatever and deal with it there. And I think that in that aspect, we have to kind of do the same. And I think sometimes we get lost in division. We'll pick one side, and maybe we don't like certain things of something, and so we reject all of it instead of seeing the benefits that it might have in certain areas.
For sure.
So, Dr. Goodman, with since we were talking about diabetes and stuff, would that play along? The diabetes, do you think that would play along also in the mindset of how people perceive life?
Oh, absolutely. Very often the emotional mindset that goes along with diabetes is bitterness and resentment.
Yes.
And very often people who are feeling bitter or resentment, they will be drawn to the sugary foods for the sake of pacifying that resentment, for the sake of what the endocrinologist would say. It's for the sake of balancing the blood sugar that's been driven into a spike because of the resentment. But if there's just as potent an argument to be made that it was the resentment that caused the blood sugar to drop in the first place. And if you dealt once again with what you were speaking of earlier, as far as really the core of things is about acceptance.
Absolutely. I think that, when it comes to anything in life, I think that acceptance is always one of the roots to the branches of our chaos, because it always comes down to, and I think you and I were talking about that last week even, that, no matter what it is in our life, that it always seems to find a way to, do you accept it or do you not accept it?
That would be true.
So, Dr. Chasen, I am an athlete, and one of the things that I have enjoyed for many years is the wonderful art of cupping. And I know that with the Olympics that just passed, I know a bunch of the swimmers were doing it, and people are like, hey, those were the same marks that are always on your back. And all of a sudden it seemed to take off. And I said, well, it's a very therapeutic, for the body. And so for people that don't know cupping and stuff, what is it and what are the therapeutic advantages to that?
That's a great question. Let me start off by saying it's part of our patient education. When a patient comes in and is a candidate for cupping, in the course of their plan of care, I will suggest they go to Amazon, buy a cupping set, bring it in so that I can instruct them or their family members to assist them in between treatments. So cupping is it's a suction of the surface of the skin, which invigorates the local circulation above and below the muscle surface to increase the flow of blood and fluid, and bioelectrical conduction as well, electricity. It's done usually exactly where the problem is, and can be very therapeutic and very safe if done correctly, and it's not very difficult to do. And again, I want to go back that at Coral Gables Acupuncture, we try and empower our patients so that they can feel like they have some useful tools that they've gotten out of our experience with them.
The first thing that always people say to me when it comes to cupping is, oh, it looks painful. And then, people always say, oh, it looks like you got hugged by an octopus because you got all these little spots all over you. But they see sometimes the deep red marks to them and stuff. And I say, well, that's part of the healing process, the blood vessels breaking, correct? And, so that's usually normal in a cupping treatment, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And the deeper the color of red or purple, but generally the more effective the treatment is. And people will understand that there is a blockage or a stagnation, which is a word you hear a lot in tonight's conversation. And the best physical application to break that up is massage or acupuncture, which is dispersing. But cupping can work in almost a 1 to 2 inch diameter area, which is a massive approach to a small area on the body, and it just invigorates and recirculates the static blood, and it has a tremendous potential to break up knots and other tight areas of skin.
Well, massage is wonderful for the body, and a lot of people, I always tell people, you need to get massages regularly, as you should get with acupuncture and working on yourself all the time. But is it beneficial to get cupping and massage at the same time, or cupping and acupuncture at the same time?
Oh, yeah. We have, as part of our plan of care, on Fridays and Mondays, we have free massage. And oftentimes, the patient will respond much better to an acupuncture treatment if it's preceded by massage and or cupping.
Well, why do they have any scientific for that, or is there a theory behind that?
Well, I think the basic theory is that let's talk about the cupping. The cupping has such a strong dispersive capacity that it allows the acupuncture to work better in the affected area. And the massage, of course, is very regulating, and the acupuncture has a very regulating or normalizing ability as well.
Oh, absolutely. So, Doctor, we have a couple minutes left. Dr. Goodman, mindset mastery is something that I know that you've been working with for a long time to help heal with people and stuff like that. So, what is one last thing you can say to people to help get them in that development?
That you can change your mind about anything, and when you change your mind about something, from why me, why this, why now, the victim status, to what's the benefit, what's the blessing, how does it serve me, where you become the victor, that has the capability of really changing your life. It has the ability to open you up to all of the experiences that are part of life, as opposed to being a more avoidant person.
Absolutely.
You can do it.
I couldn't agree more. Dr. Chasen, if someone wanted to come and get acupuncture and then they had fears, what would be one thing that you would say to them?
The reason that they're coming in is probably more painful than the experience of acupuncture itself.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Goodman, if you want to give out any info for them.
You can go to either of our websites. Mine is, you can reach me at the Goodman Factor. Looks just like it sounds, Dr. Goodman at yahoo.com, or the Goodman Factor.
Okay, and Dr. Chasen, do you have any info, phone number, webpage that you'd like to give out as well?
Oh, absolutely. But I know that we're coming to a close, and I want to tell you what a privilege and a great opportunity it's been to talk with you and carry the message. The webpage is miamiacupuncture.com. The practice name is Coral Gables Acupuncture. You can find us on the web, and you can call us at 305-446-3009.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being on. I really enjoyed our thing. And I think that we gave a lot of listeners a lot of good knowledge for them to sit and understand and digest it. So thank you guys so much for being on my show.
Thank you for having us.
I just want to say to all the prospective patients out there and everyone that's listening, it's never too late.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. All right, everybody. If you'd like to follow us, you can follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation. Visit my website, soulandspiritguide.com, and sign up for the newsletter to receive special VIP access to hidden shows and special guest offers. And as always, email me at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. Make sure you visit the w4cy.com website. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.